easy. Talk is cheap. On the other side, they do a whole lot of talk. But we have a record of action that we should feel very proud of. And we need to tell that story. This is the moment. This is the moment to tell people, no matter where you live, we care about you. We respect you. We may not agree on everything, but we value you as Americans. And this campaign is based on hope and joy and respect for others and being tough where it matters. Being tough where it matters. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, as Tim said, really are weird and more than that. But the reality is we understand that we have more in common than those things that divide us. And we want to be the ones to get this right for our kids. So I'm excited. We're going to move forward. There's no doubt in my mind. In Michigan, we're working our hearts off. And I know that you are as well. So let's go get it done. We're going to have a great convention. And then I want to see the biggest possible party on election night that you have ever seen. Let's go win.
Thank you, Senator Stabenow. Look, she said it. This is the moment. It's the moment for all of us. And let me tell you, we are here to hear, and we're also here to work. So we need you to donate. The donate button is there. The QR code is there. We need you to sign up to volunteer. We will put the link to volunteer across the screen. We need you active because this is the moment. I'm going to take a quick second and thank our hosts. I'll talk about them over the course of the night. We have Jane Glib, who is the chair of the Nebraska Democratic Party and the founder of Bold Alliance and an author. We have Paolo Cremidas, who's the executive director of Outrun. We have Jess Piper, who's the executive director of Blue Missouri. Of course, I'm one of the hosts, and I am the co-founder of Vortex PAC, which is to flip the congressional seats in Arkansas. And I'm also the co-chair of the Dirt Road Democrats, the PAC that Jamie Harrison founded that's going into rural communities and getting that 5% we need to flip some of these seats. PJ Herrera, who's the Rural Caucus Chair for the Young Democrats of America. Matt Barron, a longtime rural leader, author, and strategist. Scott Klebb, the Truman Rural Volunteer. And Bree Maxwell. She is the DNC Rural Coalition's director, and let me tell you, she is rocking it. You'll hear from some of them throughout the night, but I am excited about what we're doing. And let me get ready to pull up our next guest, who is phenomenal. We are hearing from elected officials because they care about rural, and they are in rural America. And we're also hearing from some folks on the big screen. So our next guest is none other than the Emmy Award-winning TV host and designer, Bobby Burke. He is on a prominent figure on Netflix, Queer Eye. And let me tell you, he grew up in small towns and he knows rural folks. So let's hear from Bobby Burke.
Hey, everybody. So I am so proud to be here today to support our future president and vice president, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. To say that I am excited to help elect our first female vice president would be the biggest understatement of the year. I'm really sitting here today just filled with so much hope and joy. And I really hope that you can feel it too, because something feels different today. Something I can feel in the air, and it really feels like freedom. I grew up in the heartland in the other great M state, in Mount Vernon, Missouri. And back then, things they weren't as divided as they are today. They weren't red versus blue, liberal versus conservative. We were just neighbors helping neighbors get by. And as a kid, I would go around and I would help our neighbors harvest their hay every summer. And it didn't matter who you voted for. It only mattered that you were there to help your community. I grew up in a very Republican family. And I remember when Bill Clinton was running for president, our neighbors were voting for him. And my parents got into a discussion with him one day about it, but it was a nice, civilized discussion. I didn't even think anything of it. And it didn't divide them in a way that political conversations do now. And I really want us to be able to get back to the way it was, where neighbors could have different political views, but still every summer go out there and help each other bale hay. Though I've learned, if we've learned anything since 2015, though, it's that Trump only wants to divide us further. He's sowing chaos and division wherever he goes. He wants it to be red versus blue. He wants it to be Democrats versus Republicans instead of just Americans for Americans. Because if we're all at each other's throats, we won't see the laws he's breaking, the self-serving actions that he's doing, and the damage that he is doing to our democracy. The Harris and Walz administration, though, wants to unite us. They want to bring us together as one country. They want us to succeed as one people. Because when we work together, we will always be more successful, because our diversity is what makes our country so very special. You know, about this week, a year ago, my dad passed away. And to say he was a card-carrying Republican would be a huge understatement. But during the Trump administration, we had a lot of talks on how Trump was trying to take mine and other minorities' rights away, from the LGBTQ community to women, to people of color, to immigrants. And my 80-year-old father just never really understood why. He didn't understand why having the right to marry affected him or affected anyone else, and why it should be anyone else's business besides mine and my husband's. And as Tim has said, it's not pie. Equal rights doesn't mean less for you. And, you know, I really didn't have any hope that I was going to be able to change the mind of my 80-year-old dad, who'd thought it was his Christian duty to vote Republican. However, after the 2020 election, my dad called me up because he wanted me to know he did not vote for that man. He did not vote for Trump because of me and my husband Dewey. He said, I believe that you and every American should have the same rights. And if this guy is trying to take the rights away from any Americans, then he has no business leading this country. And if my 80-year-old card-carrying Republican cowboy father was able to see that, then others will too. So have the hard conversations with your loved ones and friends. Get out there and talk to your neighbors, and let's get back to the days when being in a different political party did not make us enemies. Let's get back and let's get behind Harris and Walz, who are here to unite us and not divide us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bobby. Neighbors helping neighbors. That's what it's about. Neighbors helping neighbors. And let me tell you, we are talking tonight about policy. That's the head. We're talking tonight about the work that needs to be done. That's the hand. Bobby just showed us that we're also talking about the feelings that matter. That's the heart. And the Harris Walz team, they're bringing together the head, the hands, and the heart for us to get to it. And I'm excited that all three of these are coming together at the state level. So next up, you're going to hear from some state level champions that are doing the work. And our next guest, our next speaker is Chris Gibbs, who's the chair of Shelby County, Ohio. But get this, Chris is a former Republican. That's right. And he is now proud to be the county chair in rural Ohio. Chris is a rancher and has a loyal following on Twitter. So let's hear from Chris. Take it away, Chris.
Hey, thanks, Chris, and good evening. And thank you all for joining us on this historic night for all America, and in particular, in my view, rural America. You know, just as many of you have been working in this rural America space, my focus since getting a hold of the Democratic Party chairmanship this past fall, after spending years, as you said, as a GOP chair, I've had a sordid past here, I guess. My goal was to get Democrats out from hiding, raise their personal confidence, and make sure they could identify and demonstrate shared values to their friends, their neighbors, their detractors, and as a bonus, to be able to tell why they were proud to be part of the Democratic Party. All this in an effort to rebuild the Democratic brand across rural America that has slipped away, in my view, over the past couple decades. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to blow sunshine up your skirt. As I've traveled the state speaking to groups, I've told them that the cavalry wasn't coming to help rebuild that brand, and that we were on our own to do that one vote at a time and in our rural communities. Well, tonight, I've been proven wrong. Tonight, the cavalry is here. Yes, it's right here. With the Waltz selection, Vice President Harris has laid down the marker that out here in rural America, she sees us, she hears us, and she not only talks the talk, but she's proved that she can walk the walk. Folks, Kamala Harris has given rural America a gift tonight, a gift that we can point to and use to raise up all those who have felt like their voices weren't being heard in rural America. As Vice President said earlier, we believe in lifting people up, not knocking them down. And the best part, she says it with a smile. And that was not lost on Governor Walz in Philadelphia when he thanked her for bringing back the joy to the fight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you what. We're going to leverage that joy with the party faithful. We're going to leverage that joy with our youth. We're going to leverage that joy with our neighbors. We're going to leverage that joy at the feed store, at the tire store, at the repair store, at the post office, at the gas station, at the family reunion. We're going to leverage that joy in the greeting line at church. Now we've got a task ahead. But as you know, on the farm, when there's work to be done, we don't shy away. So let's gird up our loins, pick up the shovel, and start digging for votes, one neighbor at a time. Thanks for being here.
All right, Chris. Look, Chris delivered. We are, pick up your shovel. Let's dig for votes. He's right. When we show up, people respond. And I'm equally excited that we have in Vice President Harris, soon to be President Harris, someone who sees us, who hears us, and is ready to walk with us. So look, we are traveling the country, hearing from folks. We're also traveling across generations, because this is about all of us. And the next speaker I'm excited to bring up, because this speaker represents the next generation. Anderson Clayton is the chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party, and Clayton's election symbolizes a generational shift and a push for inclusivity within the Democratic Party. We know that the youth are the ones, always have been the ones, at the forefront of great change in this country. So I'm excited about Anderson Clayton. Let's hear what he has to say.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me on. I deeply appreciate it. And hello, rural America. It is an honor to be with you all here tonight on such a historic day. If I do say so myself, rural Democrats always have a way of taking time and opportunity where it's at. And so I'm very excited that on this day, we also get to celebrate the historic announcement of Governor Tim Walz joining the ticket with our phenomenal next president, Kamala Harris. I worked for Kamala Harris's campaign in 2019 in Iowa for the first time, in rural Iowa, and I got to see her go around and interact with people, farmers, and small communities all over that state, whether it be in places like Belle Plaine or whether it be in North English. And so she's been around, and I've been able to see her interact with folks from across our communities. And I'm honored to be a state party chair and be from rural North Carolina, a place called Roxborough in Person County, and be coming to you all and talking about the fact that the Democratic Party is something we should be so proud to carry that brand for out in our communities right now, because we are the party that has invested in rural communities and put back into these communities the opportunity for them to see themselves economically still existing 50 years from now. We have the opportunity to tell the story of how the Democratic Party is put into revitalizing rural economies again through expanding broadband access throughout rural communities across our country. And that means expanding opportunity. Broadband access is the great equalizer, as Senator Stabenow pointed to earlier. And we have the accomplishments to point to, but also the future to point to that we want to see produced by our party in the future. And so I hope that all of you listening to this tonight just take that opportunity, and anyone that right now that may be feeling scared to say and to stand up in their rural town or in their small town and say that they're a Democrat, you don't need to be afraid. And I hope that you'll take that small step of getting involved, whether it means talking to your friends and your neighbors, phone banking for the first time, door knocking, donating, making sure that you're taking that step to get involved with this historic election, because rural America, we need you now more than ever. And you need to be carrying that torch in all of our communities, because we need to stand up toe to toe this year, look fear in the face, look Republicans in the face, and say, we're not backing down, no way, no how, in fighting for our communities, because we know that rural values mean standing up for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and for opportunity for everyone across our communities, not just those that may be the loudest in them. And so I just want to say thank you all for being here. If you're a North Carolina rural Democrat, though, I want to see you on the doors with us this weekend. So go to ncdp.org and make sure that you're signing up to get involved. We are winning on the margins in this state right here behind me. 74,000 votes, what we lost by in 2020. That is 42 votes per every precinct in every county in the state of North Carolina. It is winnable this year, but only if you get out and help us out. So thank you all for having us tonight. Rural matters, and we're making that clear this year everywhere up and down the ballot. Thanks, y'all.
I love it. Anderson is on fire as always. I've watched her since she became the chair, and this is what it's about. Showing up everywhere, not being afraid, facing it, because when we fight, we win. So look, she's not alone. We have young rural voters that are doing the work. And the thing about rural, in the popular narrative and media, folks think of rural as older and white. But those of us who know rural, we know that rural is quite diverse across race, across ethnicity, across age. And Paulo Cremidas is an example of that diversity. And through his work with Outrun Coalition, he is promoting diversity in rural political representation. And look, that parallels what VP Harris's role has done in her groundbreaking work in being an unrepresented person throughout her life. Look, I'm excited about what Paulo is going to talk about, so let's bring him up.
All right, cool. Hi, how's it going? I only have 3 minutes. My name is Paulo Cremidas. I'm the executive director of the Outrun Coalition. We're a volunteer grassroots organization composed of over 500 rural, diverse, local Democratic elected officials from across 16 states. I'm bringing you great news from Elmira, the home of Mark Twain, my hometown, and the home of one of the toughest rural Democratic parties in the country, the Chemung County Democrats. Outrun doesn't see red states or blue states. We fight to make sure to include our rural communities in the Democratic Party regardless of zip code. We are about moving forward together. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, because that's what rural America is, and that's what Harris-Walz is. We're on this call because we believe that the future of rural America is the next generation of rural Democratic elected officials is diverse, progressive, and plentiful. And so does the Harris-Walz ticket. This election is not just about getting 5% of voters to come out and vote in swing states, which we're going to do. This election is about breaking supermajorities in places like Arkansas, Tennessee, Missouri, and Idaho, and all across rural America. This is about restoring the values of his honesty, kindness, and good deeds to the public office across our rural communities. We believe that whether you wake up to high-rises or hayfields, every person in America deserves to have their rights protected and an economic justice for all people who work. I know a lot of us feel fear. We are sometimes even afraid to be Democrats. But like many of you, I have learned to harness my fear into hope, and that hope into votes. Votes that have elected hundreds of school board members, counselors, county legislators who stand up for our values, even if they are the only voice in the room. Be a thorn on the side of your Republican congressman. Be the council person that's a loud voice against Medicare cuts, trans bans, because rural America is all of us. I don't need to tell you that. Do not look at your county as a lost cause. Look at it as an opportunity to show America that the ideals of democracy that we have been built upon can win, that diversity can win. Work with us to help you elect the next generation of rural Democrats. Raise your hand. I know I can't see you if you want to run for office and join us. For those of us like myself who have had to leave home in search of better economic opportunity, this is our chance to ensure that we come home. And we come home by reminding our parents and grandparents to vote. We come home by making sure that we strive for an economy where young people in rural communities have economic opportunities, and that is the Harris-Walz agenda. Finally, as a Latino and an immigrant, rural America accepted me. I am a proud son of Elmira and Chemung County in the Southern Tier, and folks like us have been here before MAGA, and we will continue to be here. because rural America is our home and it is worth fighting for. Victory for all of us in November. Thank you.
Yes, rural America is our home and it's worth fighting for. Look, we need to channel Paolo's energy, channel that and take that and turn it into work, and take that work and turn it into votes, because we will win in November. Look, don't forget, make sure you donate rule4harris.com/give. That money is the fuel we need to do the work on the ground, particularly in rural areas across the country. The next speaker has channeled that energy and he has put in the work. I am super excited about this next speaker because he's someone who ran at the same time that I ran. He was already in elected office as the lieutenant governor of Wisconsin. He was running for office when I was running for governor of Arkansas. And let me tell you, he is a trailblazer. He has roots in a union family, and he's been focused on economic justice and sustainability. And this parallels VP Harris's efforts to support working families and underserved communities. So again, let's talk about rural diversity. Let's see what we're doing across the country, and let's hear from former Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor, my friend, my homeboy, Mandela Barnes.
Chris Jones, my man, thank you so much for having me today. I'm Mandela Barnes, former Lieutenant Governor of the state of Wisconsin. I'm going to be very brief. Had a couple scheduling conflicts. So I'm outside right now. If you hear the dogs in the background, please forgive me. They're just excited about Harris Waltz as I am. So I represented the state of Wisconsin. I still see myself as a representative of the state of Wisconsin, but I was born and raised in the city of Milwaukee, not a particularly rural area. But I can tell you, being from Milwaukee, it was sparked my interest in rural issues, because the more I traveled, whether I was campaigning for other candidates in districts for the state legislature, or whether I was just showing up for different events to try to build bridges between communities, I saw the parallels in the issues that we were dealing with in the city of Milwaukee, the challenges we were dealing with, and they were almost the exact same. We were still talking about job loss, whether it was the consolidation of family farms or good jobs being sent overseas, the kind of jobs that my grandfather had, the kind of jobs that my dad had being sent overseas. There was all these parallels. Lack of access to healthcare. Sometimes in the city of Milwaukee, a hospital might be right around the corner from you, but folks can't even afford to pay the doctor bill. And unfortunately, the inverse is true in a lot of rural communities where people may be able to afford healthcare, but it's out of reach, hours away for people to get to an appointment, because governors in these states have declined to accept the Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act. There are 10 states left, and my state is one of them. It's not the governor's fault, it's the legislature's fault. But I'm here to talk about a new day that's possible. And one question you're going to hear all the time is, can Harris Waltz win rural areas across the United States of America? I'm here to tell you absolutely yes. In my campaign, I won more rural counties than the person who ran before me, who was a United States Senator, who was an incumbent. I won more rural counties than Russ Feingold. And when people ask, can Kamala Harris win? Again, this answer should be a resounding no from all of us, because I face the same question. Can Mandela win in a state like Wisconsin that's 6.5% Black, that's 6.5% Latino? Can Mandela Barnes get it done in rural communities? And we did the work. I'll tell you exactly who believed that I could win. It was Republicans. Republicans believed that I could win my race. Republicans knew that I could win, and they showed up in full force. And in third-party spending and super PAC spending, it was the largest expenditure against any candidate ever. That was against me. We were outspent by $26 million. That is real money, because Republicans believed that I could win. Now, if there were certain Democrats that believed we could get it done, we would have gotten over that hump. I lost my race by 26,000 votes. That is 1%. So I'm telling you right now that I put too much into my campaign, and too many people put too much into me to walk away. I refuse to walk away. I'm going to do everything I can to help support other folks across the country. That's why I started my political action committee, The Long Run, and that's why I'm in this, to support Harris Waltz. So with that being said, none of us want to wake up and see that Harris lost Wisconsin by 1%. So we need to do everything we possibly can to make sure that Kamala Harris can waltz on into the White House on January 20th, 2025. Appreciate y'all so much for having me.
Thank you, my friend, Lieutenant Governor. He's right. We don't want to wake up after Election Day and say that Harris Waltz barely missed it. Barely. We don't want them to say that 1% made the difference. We want to say that we won, and we won big across the whole country, especially in rural areas. And we get there by showing up like Mandela Barnes has shown up. I've talked often during my campaign for governor about the fact that I'm a seventh generation Arkansan. My family has been in Arkansas for over 200 years, and I love my state. And I think that's pretty phenomenal. But let me tell you something that's even more phenomenal. Our next guest is Representative Teresa Fernandez. And Representative Fernandez is a 17th generation Northern New Mexican. 17, 1-7, that's right. And a prominent Latina leader. Her work in Congress mirrors VP Harris's role in breaking barriers and advocating for diverse representation in government. I'm excited to hear from a 17th generation Northern New Mexican in Representative Teresa Fernandez. Let's hear it.
Hello, and thank you. I love being a 17th generation New Mexican, and I love being on here with all my rural hermanos and hermanas. I am Teresa Leger Fernandez, and I represent the beautiful and beautifully diverse 3rd Congressional District of Nuevo Mexico. As said, I have been around, and my family's been around a long time, and it gives me incredible joy to be with you here tonight with my friends across all of rural America in support of our next president, President Kamala Harris and Vice President Tim Walz. Doesn't it sound perfect? Doesn't it sound perfect to say those two names together and to give them those two titles? Listen, I'm from a small town in northern New Mexico. I represent the district where I grew up. It's huge, one of the biggest districts in the country, and almost entirely rural. It's why I know that small places can do big things. Let me tell you a story about how the farming and ranching villages of northern New Mexico have lived and bloomed in our high mountain deserts for centuries. This story is about something so precious, so beautiful, that it's almost sacred. It's a ditch. I'm talking about a ditch. You're going to like this story, so hold on. It's not just any ditch. We call them acequias, historic irrigation channels that make sure that the snow that falls on the mountains and river can flow in the winter, can flow down to nourish our fields in the summer and the spring. The farmers who depend on the acequias each own a little share of the water that flows through them. And we protect and take care of those ditches together, because without them, we would not survive. Everyone owns a little piece of the acequia, but it only exists if we dream it and work for it together. Acequias are older than America, but there is something American about them, that shared belief and commitment to something that's bigger than each of us. Every rural community has some version of this. Believing in your community, believing in something that is bigger. We all own a little share of America, right? And we all know that America is bigger than any one of us. It's that idea, right? Our job as elected leaders is to make it easier for communities like ours, rural communities, to grow both the food that comes thanks to those acequias and the dreams we cultivate in our children. Democrats understand this. That's why under President Biden and Vice President Harris, we made the biggest investment in rural America since the New Deal. Democrats prioritize rural America. Democrats understand that if we as a country give up on small towns, we give up on a part of ourselves that we will never get back. So for the next few weeks, I'm going to be going around just like all of you, talking with ranchers and farmers in small towns and asking them to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. With Kamala Harris and our rural dad and coach Tim Walz, we'll show rural America that Democrats don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. Democrats walk the walk when we pass that infrastructure bill to fix our roads and to bring broadband finally to our small towns and rural villages. I'm on the Rural Broadband Task Force. It is important that we finally get internet everywhere, no matter your zip code. That's something that Kamala Harris championed. And Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have big plans to do more for rural America. We have plans to cut costs for households and farms, and we will deliver plans to invest in rural schools and our rural businesses, and we'll deliver. And what we have done and what we'll do under Harris and Walz administration. And let me say, we are going to take back the House and we're going to keep the Senate and we're going to make this happen. All of this that we have planned for rural America is in sharp contrast to Trump and Vance's grim vision of what they will do to our small towns and farms. Where we want to invest in rural America, their Project 2025 would cut the USDA, cut the Department of Education, cut Head Start. Really? Cut Head Start? I'm a Head Start baby. Rural America loves Head Start. They love our rural schools. But with the leadership of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, we'll partner with rural America on an agenda of investment and prosperity. Because we need to keep our eye on that future. In New Mexico, we don't clean out those acequias I talked about. We don't clean them out just once. We have to go back every year and in the growing season. And that's what Democrats are going to keep doing. We're going to keep coming back to rural America. We're going to keep showing up. We're going to be asking all of you to do your part. Talk to your neighbors, get in that truck and head on down to your neighbors. Go to your village meetings. Participate in those meetings that are really hard. Democrats and some of my red counties, they're my heroes because, it's easier when you're, a Democrat in a Democrat county. But when you're a Democrat in the Republican county, you're talking to your friends, your Republican friends, your independent friends, your Democratic friends. You're getting them all fired up. And that's what we're going to do, just like we do protecting our ranches and farms and showing up every year to keep them clean, to grow our crops. We're going to keep showing up for rural America, month after month, year after year, because we know what it takes. It takes hard work to make our communities thrive. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they know what hard work is. It hasn't been easy for them. They've made it work, just like we do. And you know what? We're going to dream it and we're going to work it together. We're going to win it together. Let's do this. Mis amigos y hermanos, hermanas, en todas partes. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much for everything you're going to make happen over the next 2 months, 3 months.
Thank you, Representative Fernandez. That was amazing. The story of the acequias is a powerful story, and it is the story of America. And we all own our little share of America, and we're all going to do the work to get us where we need to get. And the work continues. I'm excited about the next few guests, and we have some big surprises coming. You're going to love this. But the next guest is phenomenal. And you talk about doing the work and continuing to do the work. Jane Kleeb has been doing the work. She's the chair of the Nebraska Democratic Party, the founder of Bold Alliance, and author of Harvest the Vote, a book you should all get. Her work with AmeriCorps and the Young Democrats of America, along with her book, they really talk about grassroots organizing. And let me say, too, throughout the rest of this meeting, you're going to hear from some grassroots organizers, and you're going to hear how you can plug in. Pay attention to their websites, whether it's the Long Run Pack or whether it's Outrun. Pay attention to their websites. Go check them out and get engaged. So I'm excited about our next speaker, Jane Kleeb. Let's go.
Thank you, Chris. And hello, fellow Dirt Road Democrats and small town heroes. And of course, my fellow Swifties who are on as well. I became a Swiftie after 50 because of my kid and proud of it. I want to talk to you a little bit about why I am so freaking excited today. Not only do we have, of course, Kamala Harris as the top of our ticket, but we now have Tim Walz, who is going to be our next vice president. And you definitely know Tim Walz from being the governor of Minnesota, and I will be thrilled when we get Kamala Harris and Tim Walz elected, because then Peggy Flanagan becomes the first woman Native American governor. So we got to make that happen. But you may not know that Tim Walz is actually from Nebraska. He was born and raised in the Sandhills of our state, which are a beautiful part of our state that we deeply and fiercely protected during the Keystone XL fight. He has that heart still in him. And when we say we are filled with joy and that we live in that feeling, that's exactly what we're doing tonight. We know that anger and fear is what has driven Donald Trump to the White House last time, and we cannot ever let that happen again. And I know as a small town and a rural organizer, it gets lonely. Trust me. When we have fellow Democrats come up to us at the grocery store and whisper to us, you're proud for wearing that sweatshirt. I'm a Democrat too. I always say back to them, like, I am proud, but I want you to wear that Democratic sweatshirt and t-shirt too. The more of us that do it, the more that we can show that there's actually a lot more of us in rural America. Sometimes with my paying job, because us in red states as chairs and party leaders, we're all volunteers. And so I still run a group called Bold as my paying job. I have to go to a lot of county commission board meetings and school board meetings to visit with elected officials about some of the policies we're working on in rural America. And one of the last times I went in, the county commissioner said, our next speaker is Jane Klebb. You might have seen her minivan. She has a no pipeline sticker. We agree with her on that. But she also has a Joe Biden sticker. And she's probably the only minivan in this entire county that has a Biden sticker. And in those moments, as rural Democrats, we have to meet that with laughter. I could have gotten angry and said, I'm not the only one, and given him facts about that. But you have to laugh and say, yeah, I'm a proud Democrat, and there's a lot more of us. And I often say to folks when I'm in rural towns, yes, I'm a Democrat, because they always bring up that I'm a Democrat or I'm a progressive Democrat. And I proudly say I am. And last time I look around the room, I don't see any other Republican elected officials or party leaders here. It's me. And that is true. As Democrats, we show up to our small towns. We believe in protecting property rights. We want to make sure that our family farmers and ranchers get a bigger share of that price when their products get to the market. We need to make sure that we're protecting our land, air, and water so we can continue to have agriculture that's feeding the world. And we know in rural America, it's our land that is going to be the place that we grow America's next 100 years of energy with wind and solar. And we got to do that in a fair way, in a better way. And that's what we're doing out here in Nebraska and all across the Midwest. I want to say calls to action are going to be coming. Bree and Kylie, you'll hear at the end of the call. They're from the DNC Rural Council. They're going to give you some calls to action next. But I'm going to say this also. Don't wait for somebody to tap you on the shoulder and say, you're a leader. If you're on this call, you're a leader. You're probably the person that your family and friend comes to get political information. If you don't have yard signs and barn signs, please send an email to info@nebraskademocrats.org. Even if you're not in Nebraska, I'm telling you, you have my word and commitment. We are going to make sure that you have yard signs and barn signs to put up in your community. And I know the next is coming up is Jennifer Garner. And I just want to say this, because this will probably be the only time that I will be able to say this to her somewhat face, because she comes up next. Thank you for giving such a strong role model to our little girls. And thank you for showing that moms are strong people. To see you on the big screen at Deadpool, which we saw this past weekend, and to see you on Instagram and Facebook and all the other places that you post, you give such a beautiful role model for not only our girls, but for us moms. You show moms that we can be fun and quirky and strong. So thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for supporting Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Let's go, Dirt Road Dems. This is our moment to show that rural can punch above our weight and get Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to the White House. Thanks all.
Yes. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Jane. Look, she's right. Rural can punch above our weight. And we are going to punch above our weight. We're going to get Harris and Walz to the White House because we need them there. We have a phenomenal ticket. Make sure you donate. Make sure you're volunteering. Look, we have in VP Harris someone who graduated from Howard University, the Mecca. And let me tell you, if you know anything about Howard University, you know it's an amazing institution. And we also have someone in Tim Walz who is a football coach. Who doesn't love Friday Night Lights? So look, we have a team. We're ready. And the next speaker is going to tell you what we can do and get you fired up. I'm excited about our next guest speaker. She was raised in West Virginia. And you already know who she is. So the cat's out of the bag. It's Jennifer Garner. She knows small towns and rural values. As an artist ambassador for Save the Children, she dedicated over a decade advocating for children's rights and education. This is exactly what VP Harris's commitment is in terms of social justice and support for underserved communities. She co-founded Organic Baby Food Once Upon a Farm, promoting nutrition for children. That is critical. And she has roles in all sorts of films. So next up, I'm excited to introduce an award-winning actress and philanthropist, Jennifer Gardner. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Hello. Thank you. And thank you, Jane Cleve. That was really, you touched me so much. What an incredibly inspiring day. First of all, can you imagine a better completion of the Harris Waltz ticket? Just like through the roof excitement. Can you imagine a better group of people? I've been listening just with my hand on my heart, just in love with everything and all of the people that I've been listening to on this call that rural America has to offer. It is like the whole country suddenly has the opportunity to point towards joy. And I am so thrilled to talk to you right now here today about what I love about rural America. So my dad grew up with very little in Texas, in Richards and Baytown, Texas. My mom grew up with nothing but a wonderful family in the middle of nowhere at Dirt Farm, Oklahoma, really just kind of Dust Bowl depression. And my sisters and I somehow were able to grow up middle class in West Virginia. And how did this happen? Because people gave my parents a leg up. They encouraged them to get educated. They helped them just a little bit here and a little bit there, showed them this is how you work in the cafeteria. This is a teacher that really believes in you. And because my parents got educated, it changed everything for my sisters and me, for our children, and forevermore for our family. So I grew up believing so strongly in the power of education. I also saw in my little elementary school kids who came from generational rural poverty, who did not have the opportunities that I did, who did not have preschool like I did, and all of the early education that matters so much for kids. And I saw them hanging back while some of us from professional families moved up in our classes, and it wasn't fair. It really bugged me. So 16 years ago, I went looking for the organization with the most efficacy in rural America. I kept people would say, do you want to work for this incredible organization that works over here? Who works over here? And I would say, but who's helping people like my mom and dad? Who's helping people like the kids I grew up with? And so this led me to Save the Children, which is a bipartisan, it's not a political organization. But Save the Children works across rural America and helping kids specifically from birth to 5 to get kindergarten ready, and then also to have that all important reading at grade level by 3rd grade, by the end of 3rd grade. And with this, I have had the gift of being able to go into people's homes, go into schools to fight state by state in states across the country. And I have seen the patchwork of rural America, the gorgeous patchwork of kids in Mississippi and South Carolina versus Appalachia, or kids in Appalachia versus our beautiful indigenous communities, or kids where English is a second language here in California or New Mexico or Texas, kids where in beautiful, the states where everything happens in the middle of our country, where you are out there growing everything that we all need so desperately. I've been to these homes, I've been to these schools, and I've seen these families struggle. There is nothing but opportunity ahead for rural America. There's no wonder when I go into these homes and see how under-resourced communities are in the middle of nowhere in our country. And believe me, our country is so big, there is a lot of middle of nowhere. And I'm not talking about behind the Walmart. I'm talking about the town behind the town behind the town who can get to Walmart, with a group of people maybe once a month, because that's how often they can afford gas. And yeah, they're hurting. I mean, in 39 states, kids in rural communities are more likely to grow up in poverty than non-rural children. Rural families are more 20% more likely to receive public assistance. They're more likely, by 43% of rural children are eligible for free and reduced priced meals. They face food insecurity more, even though they will often be growing the food that fuels our entire country. So few kids in rural America have access to preschool, to early Head Start, to Head Start, or to high quality childcare. They're more vulnerable to natural disasters. But here is the kicker for rural America. Neighbors know one another. I have seen this. I've gone back to visit during natural disasters across all kinds of rural states. And again and again and again, I am blown away by the connections, the communities, like the community that I grew up in West Virginia, where neighbors look out for neighbors, where if my mom wasn't home when I got home from school because she was a school teacher and maybe she was still busy or running errands or whatever, I would go right down the street to Marge and I would know that she would have a key for me, and Mrs. Moore would have a snack for me, and I knew I was taken care of in my community. That is the power of rural America, and that is what all of us have to harness right now. We have to harness that power. We have to get our neighbors excited. We have to show our enthusiasm and our pride as we advocate for the Harris-Walz ticket and to the eventual success of having Harris and Walz in the White House governing this country and caring about rural America, making sure that there's more opportunity for healthcare in the middle of nowhere, making sure that broadband reaches across our country, that kids growing up in poverty or in places that are under-resourced have more opportunities for either home visitation programs like the one that I have gotten to witness for the last 16 years, or for childcare, high quality early childcare. So I'm so excited, thrilled to be here, and just thrilled to go out there, knock on doors with you, show our pride together, and to continue to point our country toward the joy ahead. The biggest opportunity in our country is rural. It has just been flown over too many times. It is time to walk through in awe of what we have to offer, and I'm so excited to do it hand in hand with all of you. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Amazing. Thank you, Jennifer. Look, we have Jennifer on board, and she's right. This work, what we're doing, is about the town, behind the town, behind the town. Those folks matter because most of us came from that town, behind the town, behind the town. And if we didn't come from there, we got our values from there. We got our roots from there. Look, I'm excited about all of our speakers. And the next speaker is my partner in crime with the Dirt Road Democrats. He ran for governor of Mississippi, and he almost made it. But I'll tell you, I'm a Christian and an ordained minister, and there's a scripture that talks about the righteous man falleth 7 times, but gets back up. And Brandon Presley is someone who got back up and stayed in the fight. And I'm so excited that he stayed in the fight. And I'm so excited to be co-chairing Dirt Road Democrats with him. And I know he is going to change Mississippi, and we're doing it together. Let's hear from Brandon Presley.
Hello, Chris. It's good to come to you live from Water Valley, Mississippi, population 3,000. And look, this town is an example of towns all across this country where talking to our neighbors matter. Talking to folks that you might think, maybe they're not going to vote for a Democrat. You don't know till you talk to them. And what this effort that we're doing at Dirt Road Democrats PAC that I'm co-chairing with Chris, and what we're seeing all across this country is the politics of joy and also the politics of understanding you can't ignore people into voting for you. I know you probably feel the same way I do. I'm sick of seeing the Republican Party feel as if they own the American flag or they own rural America. Look, this is our country too, and we have a right and we have a duty as Democrats to go out and talk to voters where they are and to make a difference in our communities. I am over the moon about Tim Walz being picked as vice president today. When I ran for governor last year, let me tell you what a good guy Tim Walz is. Right toward the end of that campaign, when things get low and you get worn out, regularly he would call just to check in, not to tell me what to do or what not to say or what anything like that, just to see how I was doing. And I found a voicemail today that he called me after I lost. That tells you a lot about his character, and it tells you a lot about Kamala Harris, the fact that she picked him to be her running mate. And I couldn't be more excited about what we're doing at Dirt Road Dems PAC and what all of you are doing tonight on this call. Look, in Mississippi, I went to every county, all 82 counties. We flip counties, in which a Democrat has not been elected. I'll give you a good example. Forest County, Mississippi, hadn't voted for a Democrat for governor since 1979. I showed up in Forest County, and we flipped it. Grenada County, Mississippi, hadn't voted for a Democrat since the 90s. My wife worked her fingernails to the bone in Grenada County, and we flipped it by about 54%. This can be done. We can't ignore people into voting for us. We've got to show up. We've got to give the message to rural voters that we see them. We understand their problems. Look, I spent 16 years on the Public Service Commission here. I've got all this gray hair because, frankly, trying to get internet service to everybody throughout Mississippi, it's a tough job. But communities respond when they see us care enough about them to show up. And I know that you care that much about this country. Look, it's a big day for America. It's a big day for us. Today is my anniversary. My wife says hello. And so I couldn't think of a better way for us to celebrate our anniversary than to be online tonight with a bunch of rural organizers who care about America, who care about the fabric of our community. Look, I was a small town mayor. And I can tell you, communities respond when they see those seeking office come out and just ask for their vote, the old-fashioned way, just ask for people's vote. And we can beat back some of the craziness that we see, and we can put folks like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz into the White House, and we can make sure that rural communities are not left out. We're going to keep fighting. I'm honored to be fighting alongside you. And let me tell you, following Jennifer is like following my cousin Elvis, my wife. That's the best any type of anniversary present we could ever have. Thanks for letting me be with you, Chris.
All right, buddy. Always good to hear from Brandon. So inspiring. And look, he's right. We can't ignore people into voting for us. Happy anniversary, Brandon. Really glad you're continuing to work and doing what you're doing. You made a difference. You're continuing to make a difference. And let me tell you, when I ran for governor, I was the first African-American major party nominee for governor in Arkansas's history. Our next speaker, our next guest, was the first African-American woman major party nominee for Iowa's governor, Deidre DeJear. She broke through significant barriers, and she's a strong advocate for increasing voter turnout and making voting more accessible. And I'm excited that aligns with VP Harris's and Tim Walz, soon to be President Harris and Vice President Walz, their efforts and focus on protecting and expanding voting rights. Let's hear from Deidre DeJear.
Chris Jones, it is so good to be in the building with you, even though it's virtual. And Brandon, when can I get an invite to Dirt Road Democrats? I am super, super excited to be on this call. Usually I get on these calls and I get to brag about the so incredible Vice President, soon to be President Kamala Harris. But today I get to brag about Tim Walz and this incredible ticket that we get to vote on in November. I could not be more excited. And even then, how important and how critical and how symbolic that the day that he is announced that we're opening this call to talk to rural America and get input and talk to you all about how incredibly valuable rural America is. It's not only to this country, but to the entire world. Rural America is responsible for feeding this country and the world, fueling this country and the world. And it's a segment of our population that we cannot allow to fall by the wayside. And I mean that with everything in me. I'm originally from Mississippi. I'm a country girl. I believe in walking with my shoes off and minding my business. I come to you, though, from the great state of Iowa, where I was the first Black person ever to run for statewide office. And while I was running for office, I got the opportunity to dig a little bit deeper into rural Iowa, always accustomed to it, but I dug a little bit deeper. I had what I called Workday Wednesdays, and I would go to a place of business in rural Iowa, whether it was a yarn store, a farm, a feed store, and I told them to put me to work. Like, have me do the worst job that you can possibly have me do, because I was intent on truly walking in the shoes of a group of people who I felt meant so much to me and so much to this country, but I needed to do a stronger job of getting to know them. And what I learned is that it was more confirmed, because it wasn't what I learned, it was confirmed. Rural America are hard-working people. They do their darndest to make sure that their families are taken care of, their communities are taken care of, and this country is taken care of. But I'll tell you right now, Republican-led states like mine in Iowa are doing their darndest to make sure that they're treating rural America like third world countries. And I can tell you that is un-American. We see our schools closing. We see our hospitals closing. Women are driving 45, 50 miles so that they can actually have their babies. And then those babies are growing up in rural America and they're leaving because they feel like there's nothing there for them. We need to turn this tide and this ticket can turn this tide. I am so super proud of this ticket, because what I know is those rural Americans that are pulling themselves up by the bootstraps with no souls, this ticket is coming to rescue them. And I know this because the proof is in the pudding. You know a person by their fruits. Tim Walz signed into law ensuring that breakfast and lunch was served to every Minnesota student. What my governor did, not only did she turn away federal funds to help those students get food, but she's also doing a travesty and shutting down our schools. Tim Walz was the first governor in the nation to ensure that reproductive rights was protected under the law. While my Republican governor in the state of Iowa did one of the darndest things she could do and passed the most restrictive Trump abortion ban. Like, these are the challenges that we're seeing all across the country in these Republican-led states, and we need a partner in the White House that's going to cover us and cover our backs and make sure that these communities are set to be a part of the future in a way that they need to be. Set them up for success so they truly have a road that doesn't have all of the burdens, that they truly have a road where they can pursue life, liberty, and happiness. And when I talk about this ticket, I mean, game piece game. I'm in Iowa. We're in the second largest ag producing state in the world. California, we got a state called California that's the number one ag producing state in the world, and our very own vice president is from that state. Nebraska, third largest. Y'all know that Tim Walz was born in Nebraska. Minnesota, sixth largest. Come on now. Rural America is on the ballot, and I need y'all to vote for it. Tell your friends, tell your family. It's time to turn up in rural Iowa and rural America. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Deidre. Oh, look, she's amazing. She's exciting. Let's get her in office one day. Come on, Deidre, let's do it. Next up, we have some great folks. I'm gonna move us along. Jeff Piper, who is no stranger to anyone in rural America. She is the Blue Missouri ED and has been a fierce advocate for all things rural. Jess, take it away.
Hi, friends. It's so good to be with everybody. I haven't quit smiling all day since I heard the news about Tim Walz. And I also haven't quit smiling since I've been on this call, because you can tell we are all rural, because not one of us can pronounce the word rural. My name is Jess Piper. I come to you from the cornfields and the bean fields of Northwest Missouri. I was a teacher for 16 years. I ran for office in 2022. I got my tail kicked. But here's the thing. It's worth it. And this is how we elect somebody to the top of the ticket. This is how we elect Kamala Harris, and this is how we elect Tim Walz, is by having someone running in every single district across this nation. When I ran in 2022, 40% of the seats in Missouri were uncontested. So people would look at us and say, well, you get what you vote for, right? I had no one to vote for, a friend. This year, because of all of the work we've been doing, 18% of the seats are going uncontested. So we are making progress. And this is how we do it, because every person who comes to vote in these down ballot races helps the top of the ticket, right? When I ran, I was pretty sure, friends, that I was going to lose. I'm running in a district that has never elected a woman. I was running in a district that hadn't elected a Democrat in 32 years, but I did it anyway. And this is why, because I was raising money, because I was here, because I was loud, because I would not shut my mouth. That Republican had to stay in his district. He had to raise money to beat me. He had to raise money for a district that they hadn't thought about in 32 years. I forced him to go to forums. I forced him to show up. I forced him to knock doors. I forced him to talk about abortion bans and the fact that we don't have shoulders on our roads, and that 40 or 30% of the schools in Missouri on a 4-day week. I forced him to talk about that when he was wanting to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop, right? This is what we do. This is how we take back the country. The road to democracy is going right through rural America. This is what we need to do, is to link arms, to stand up. I go all over the country and speak to people, but I also speak to people in Missouri who call me in fear and ask me to meet them in the basement of a library or a church because they're scared. And this is what I say this year. This is the year that all of us stand up and we take our signs and we put them in the yard. And when they're stolen overnight, we have another one and we put it back out there, right? Because by God, we're going to show people who we are and what we stand for. And people say signs don't vote, and they don't. But people who drive by my house, in a town of 480 people, can see that I have a little bit of sense, right? That I stand with people who stand with children and with teachers and communities. And they can say, hey, she's going to vote for, Harris and Walz. Maybe I can do that too. Maybe I'm not the only one. And y'all should know that. I would go and knock on doors because I knocked on thousands of doors in rural Missouri. And let me tell you this, not one person came to the door and asked for their local school to be defunded so they could send that money to a private religious school. That's another matter. These people know we're here whenever we're knocking doors. And how do we knock doors? We have candidates who are on the ground. We make sure that there is a Democratic candidate in every state, on every ballot, in every race across the country. And that absolutely will help the top of the ticket. I'm so proud to be here with you guys tonight. Literally a nobody from nowhere, and Jennifer Garner and all of these fantastic folks were in front of me. The thing is, we have to remember this. It's our state too. It's our state too. Stand up, talk to your friends, go out and vote. We can do this.
Yes, we can, Jess. We can do it. I'm so excited. I love it, love it, love it. We are traveling across the country, showing us that rule is everywhere. Next up, we're going to Nebraska. We're going to Nebraska and hear from John Henson, a longtime rural leader. John's the president of the Farmers Union. And let me tell you, he's like directly in line with the ag work that's needed. So, John, you're up. Let's hear it.
Well, thank you very much. It's really a great pleasure and an honor for me to be here this evening with all these wonderful folks talking about all the things that really matter, that have everything to do about a better future. I am a sixth-generation homesteader family descendant, and I've been working on ag issues and renewable energy issues for right at 50 years. And before I jump to my main topic tonight that I want to talk about, is that we need to just pause and recognize the fact that the Biden and Harris administration have made absolutely unprecedented strides in the really important areas that have everything to do about the future of our planet and the future of our society and our democracy. And so when you think about those things, unprecedented commitment to rebuilding our domestic manufacturing sector, unprecedented climate change initiatives on the part of the Biden administration and the Inflation Reduction Act. I've never seen these kinds of commitments to renewable energy, biofuels, solar, sun, homegrown renewable energy. And as you look at infrastructure, we've been talking about infrastructure for most of the 50 years that I've been in the public sector. And yet the last one that actually delivered an infrastructure package of substance was Eisenhower. It took Biden to do that by working across the aisle. What a remarkable investment that is in the future of America. But what I want to talk about is something that has everything to do with whether or not folks get paid a fair price for what they do, what they produce, whether or not the folks who do the work, take the risk, produce our food and fiber, get paid a fair price, is whether or not the markets that we operate in are fair or competitive or not. So I've been working on ag market issues for all of 50 years. We have an unprecedented administration in terms of what they have done relative to their commitments to competition and ag market reforms. They are the best partner in my lifetime. They have done more. They have followed through more. And it all goes back to the executive order on promoting competition in the American economy that President Biden did. And it has percolated through all the different levels of the federal government, from the antitrust division of the Justice Department to packers and stockyards to right to repair that goes all the way into the Environmental Protection Agency, to going across the board in all of the various facets of government. And so they not only are willing to meet with us as folks who are out there advocating for markets that actually function as markets should, but they're calling us back. They're following up. They're following through. So this administration has made a commitment, unlike no other administration in my lifetime, to actually making markets function as markets should. And if markets aren't functioning as they should, then what we have is a system of organized thievery. And so fair markets, accessible markets, transparent markets, competitive markets has everything to do with economic well-being and the quality of life of not only family farmers, ranchers, and rural communities, but also it has everything to do with the future of our economy. And we've got to remember that, like manufacturing, agriculture produces new wealth. And the Biden administration understands that. So they're looking at agriculture and saying, agriculture can and should be a partner and an economic driver of new wealth, new taxes, new jobs, new incomes across the board at the local, state, and the national level. And so when you look at that and you say, what about Tim Walz? Well, yeah, he is from Nebraska, born and raised, and I've known and worked with Tim for a very long time. He is a champion. He has the ears that go with this job. He's a great listener. He's a great problem solver. He's a great consensus builder. He's a person that's not afraid to talk about ag or rural issues because he comes from ag and rural. And as a governor of an ag state, he's smart enough to know that it's a lot more fun being governor of an ag state when family farmers and ranchers get paid a fair price for what they produce and your economy is working and growing like it should. Tim Walz gives us an historic opportunity to champion fair markets for farmers. And so you can go to the National Farmers Union website and get all the particulars of all those things we're working with. But we have a partner in the Harris and Walz campaign like we have never had. Let's take advantage of it. Let's get to work. Let's get back to making our country and our planet all that it can and should be.
Great. Love it. Thanks, John. That's awesome. He said it. The Biden-Harris team has done so much for rural America, for farmers, and now the Harris-Walz team is going to continue that work and move it on. Let's hear next up from a congressional candidate in Georgia. I told you we're going all over the country. In Georgia's 14th district, Sean Harris, he's going to come up, give us a quick word, and I'm telling you, there's so much to hear from rural America. Let's go, Sean.
Hey, Chris, it's so good to be here with you tonight. It's also just great to see all of my dirt road Democrats online here tonight. Hey, you know, when you say you're a dirt road Democrat, that's not just a label. That's a way of life. I grew up in a little small town in Blakely, Georgia. I lived and I was born and raised on a dirt road. And you guess what? That dirt road is still there today. It hadn't changed in all these many years. And when you drive down that dirt road, you got to at least go 3 miles before you get to a highway. So here in the countryside, we get a chance to live and work with everybody across the board. But after doing 40 years in the military, I retired as a brigadier general and then came back here to Northwest Georgia and my wife and I decided to start a cattle farm. What's significant about that is this, that yes, I am a Democrat. I have a gun. I have 1 or 2 guns. I also have a pickup truck that we listen to country music all the time. But that's not what it's all about here in the country. You know, the world needs to know about dirt road Democrats. It's crucial. Many city Democrats believe that country Democrats are nothing but Republicans. And Republican Democrats that live in the country believe that all Democrats in the country are nothing but city Democrats. We need to make sure that we stand up and people understand that we are Democrats and we're Democrats no matter if we live in the city or the rural communities. You know, what's significant about me is I'm blessed to live here in Northwest Georgia. In my little part of Northwest Georgia, my representative is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Think about that for a second. Not only does she not have the values of the people that live here in the rural country community, but she don't believe in anything. She doesn't even support the Farm Bill, but she does support Project 2025. That's why Republicans and Democrats came to me right here on my farm and asked me to run for Congress. You know, what's significant about that is right now we have a real race going on down here in Georgia because of the excitement that's at the top of the ticket, but also what's happening right here inside the district. Now we have Democrats, Republicans, and independents that are working together to get Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Congress. You know, this is priceless, because if you would have thought a year ago this would be happening, it wouldn't be. Republicans have started, and I want to make sure I'm clear with this. Republicans have started Republicans for Sean Harris. The cool thing about that, I'm the second Harris on the ticket. Think about that. I'm the second Harris on the ticket. And because I'm the second Harris on the ticket, we are going to keep Georgia blue. We're going to flip this thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we're going to turn this thing out, and all rural America is coming strong. And Chris, I'm so proud to be with the Dirt Road Democrats, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
There you go, Sean. Let's get all the Harrises elected. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you for that. Look, we have a lot, not too many more speakers, but we do. Rural America is represented, and VP Harris has created a ticket that has us excited. That's why folks are here. Next up, you're going to hear from Shad Mirab, who's the chair of the Colorados. Now we're going to Colorado, the chair of the Colorado Democratic Party and a rancher. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go, Shad.
Thank you so much, Chris, and good evening, folks. My name is Shad Mirab, and I'm the chair of the Colorado Democratic Party, and I'm also a cattle rancher, like Chris said, out in western Colorado. I run the Carver Bar Ranch with my wife, Carrie Donovan. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only rancher in my Democratic circles or the only Democrat in my rancher circles, but we know that isn't true. And I want to tell you why I'm so excited about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. As ranchers, we face a constant battle against rising costs. Feed prices are unpredictable. The cost of vet care can be overwhelming. From taking care of animals in the dead of winter to beating the summer heat and moving water, this work, I can tell you, especially as a former city boy, is not for everybody. But we do this work because we believe in being part of providing high quality, locally raised beef for our friends and neighbors. And Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are dedicated to supporting our farmers and ranchers here in Colorado and across the country. And thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we've seen so much support for rural communities in the all too often forgotten parts of our country. And we have to tell that story, because under a Harris and Walz administration, we're going to see support for rural communities skyrocket. And that's because both of them know the value of hard work. Small agriculture keeps rural communities afloat, and that they're committed to the protection of public lands. They know that a good internet connection is the difference between a thriving Main Street and a crippled Main Street. And they know that safe bridges and roads help us trail our livestock. And so that's why, as a rancher and as a Democrat, we're going to deliver our electoral votes for these two champs and also elect a team of down-ballot Dems to help them in this work. And in Colorado, we are taking the fight to battleground rural counties that y'all know too many call too far of a drive too often. We're recruiting great candidates. We're funding their programs while bringing Republicans and unaffiliated voters to our cause. And we know that we can beat Donald Trump. We can beat J.D. Vance and the anti-rural Project 2025 agenda and elect Dems across rural America when we build ourselves up from the grassroots and scale on up. So let's get out there. Let's have these tough conversations with our rural friends and neighbors in our communities. And as our late, great Congresswoman Pat Schroeder once said, it is hard to wring your hands when you're rolling up your sleeves. So I hope you'll join me in knocking on doors, making phone calls, sending text messages, or merely just meeting up with a friend or family neighbor for a beer or coffee and telling them why you're a Democrat. So thanks for the opportunity to be with you here tonight. Let's go win this election. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, let's go win this election. Thanks, Shad. Look, you heard it from Shad. He's right. He's a rancher. He's on it. The lineup is amazing. Next up, you're going to hear from someone who literally wrote the book on what we need to do and how we need to organize. David Pepper wrote the book, Saving Democracy, a user's manual and guide. So look, he's the former chair of Ohio Democratic Party. You're going to hear from David Pepper. Let's see what he has to say. I'm excited. Take it away, David.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody. I'm so excited to hear from so many friends, some great leaders on this call. Excited about today's news. I'm just here to remind folks, this is the front line of democracy. The districts, the communities we are talking about are the front line. It's been the Republican front line in the attack on democracy for years. Most of the damage being done to our country is happening through districts in more rural parts of this country that, as Jess Piper said, we have not been running in. That's where most of the damage, that's where the abortion bans, that's where all the crazy laws that we're dealing with in Ohio and Florida and Tennessee, Missouri, it's all happening in these districts. And for too long, until very recently, we haven't even been challenging these people. That's their front line. And so what I say tonight is to everyone on this call, thank you for being on the same front line. Because by running and doing all the activity you're doing, you are pushing back. And the other thing that comes when we run everywhere, as Jess talked about, the agenda being pushed by the extremists of this country are a disaster for rural America. The universal vouchers that are allowing kids in suburbs to go to schools they've always gone to, but now they get a coupon while their rural schools pay the price. It's a disaster. But voters don't know that unless we're running in those districts to tell them. The attacks on infrastructure, on healthcare, all of it. Jim Jordan's district pays a price for all of his horrible policies. But if we don't run hard against these people, no one knows it. So the front line of the attack on democracy has been in the districts that for too long we haven't competed in. When I see Anderson Clayton and Jane Cleave and others, what I see are the leaders who are turning that around. Every district but 2 in North Carolina is being contested this year. A couple years ago, it was like 30. And so we have to run to win at the top. We need the energy at all levels, but we also have to contest to win for ourselves, because when we start holding these extremists accountable in the rural parts of states like Ohio and others, that's when we also start to get some normalcy back into our state level politics that have been off the rails, largely due to districts that we have to compete more in. So you're the front line. Dirt Road Democrats, so many of the candidates, so many of the leaders, Blue Missouri, Blue Ohio. We have to make it clear that we want to run everywhere. It lifts turnout for the top of the ticket, but it also gets our democracy back to being a little more normal in states that in the last couple of years feel like the wheels are coming off. Let's go, everybody. Thanks for putting this together. Let's all work hard for the next 3 months, get this done. Not just winning the White House, but flipping some state houses, winning some state level seats, because that's also where democracy will be determined. We got to win the White House, but that's the start. That's not the whole thing. The whole thing is up and down the ballot. Thanks, Chris, for your great leadership and your inspiration.
Appreciate it, David. Thank you. Thank you. Look, I've read his book and have handwritten notes all over it. David is right. We have to fight everywhere. We have to run everywhere. We have to win everywhere. And now we're going to Florida for the Florida Commissioner, Matt Grachowski. And Matt is going to tell us what's happening in Florida and give us another word of inspiration.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Grapolsky. I'm an associate soil and water supervisor here in Orange County, Florida, and I represent communities that are rural, such as Wedgefield, Buffalo, Christmas, communities that are seen not as winnable by most, but communities that you can actually win if you make a proper inroads in those communities. Like last week, I fought like hell for the rural east side of our county, for their proper access to water and standing up to corporate greed out in Wedgefield. I was raised in Polk County, and I remember cow farms, orange tree groves, and our beautiful lakes where we all connected, hit by urban sprawl in our communities. Today, I serve as the only non-binary office holder in the state of Florida. I serve as the first non-binary office holder in the state of Florida. A privilege and an honor, a title that I hold so close to my heart, because in this fight for equal rights and equal protection, when Southern Democrats say that they're fighting for y'all, they mean that they're fighting for all. But here in Florida, we're fighting against something that Trump wants to implement on a national level. As Beyonce said, America has a problem, and that problem is Project 2025. If you don't know, the roots of Project 2025 were basically planned here, right here in Florida. DeSantis utilized Florida as a battleground and a playground for fascism. But State Representative Tom Keene of whose campaign I worked on, showcased that Floridians from the Cal Ranches of Osceola County to Orlando don't support fascism and desperation of liberation of our bodily autonomy, of our healthcare decisions, and more. My friends, such as Nate Douglas, a Gen Z Democrat running for state house in the district, including UCF and rural Seminole County, Paulo from Outrun Coalition, and FDP Youth Council Chair Kat Margot, showcased the fact that Floridians reject fascism, and that we persist like hell, even though our state is seen as now a Republican state. We're fighting against that. Americans reject fascism. We stand for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We stand for freedom. And that freedom will elect Vice President Harris and Governor Walz to the White House. As a non-binary, progressive, full-time organizer, and the first ever non-binary office holder in the state of Florida, somebody who was never, ever supposed to make it this far at only 20 years old, I'm going to fight like hell, break that glass ceiling, and elect Vice President Harris. Thank y'all. Let's finish.
I love it. I love it. You see, we have young voices at the table doing the work, fighting everywhere. This is what it's about. And next up, we have Anita Buffum. And I'm excited to bring Anita Buffum up from a school board member in New York. So let's hear it from Anita.
Honey, I bet you didn't expect to see me here in rural for Harris call. I am Anita Buffum, the first drag queen ever elected to a school board in the U.S. That's right. You may also know me as a former model, actress, and a future reality television show villain. Okay, I took some notes here so I can get through this real quick. I want to say thank you to Outrun Coalition for inviting me. Paolo, thank you so much. This is amazing. Seriously, though, my name is Travis Barr. I'm from Casanova, New York, outside of Syracuse. Kamala Harris, or Mamala as we call her, represents the future we need, a future where diversity is celebrated. As an LGBTQ person, I know the importance of leaders who champion rights for all. Kamala Harris has fought for equality, from supporting marriage equality to protecting LGBTQ youth. In California, she married the first LGBTQ couple after marriage equality passed, showing her fierce commitment to our community. And as somebody with a disability, accessibility and healthcare are crucial to me. Kamala is committed to improving healthcare, ensuring everyone has access to the services they need. She supports the expanding of the Affordable Care Act and making healthcare more inclusive and affordable. A trailblazer who doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the walk, and most of the time in some fierce heels. Her prosecutorial experience means that she knows how to fight for justice, not afraid to stand up to powerful interests, whether it's for healthcare reform, women's rights, or climate change. As the owner of H. Gray Supply Co., a small retail business in a rural community, the importance of leaders who understand the unique challenges that we face is so important. Kamala has a plan for rural America that includes expanding broadband, as we heard earlier, investing in infrastructure, and supporting small businesses like mine. While in the Senate, Kamala co-sponsored the extension of the Secure Rural Schools and Community Self-Determination Act. My county benefits from that. Now let's talk about the adorable Tim Walz, an amazing pick for VP. Tim, as we heard earlier, implemented the free breakfast and lunch for kids in Minnesota schools, which is a very big deal for us rural Americans. Plus, history teacher, coach, shows his dedication to education and community. And let's get real, Mamala has a sense of humor and a charisma that we all can appreciate. She can throw shade with the best of them, and that's a skill that I would like in my president. She's somebody that keeps things joyful while leading us to a brighter future. Supporting Kamala Harris for president is about choosing a vision of America that is inclusive, progressive, and just. As a drag queen member, as a drag queen, the first to a school board, a disabled person, and a proud member of the LGBTQ community, I wholeheartedly support Kamala Harris, and I hope you will too. Don't forget when you're voting to vote with pride. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Anita. Look, don't forget to vote. Don't forget to donate. Don't forget to sign up to volunteer. We have a great lineup, and now we're going over to Kentucky to get a little bit of comedy from Pooja Reddy. Let's hear it, Pooja.
Hey y'all, I'm Pooja Reddy. I'm a comedian and writer based here in New York City. And like Vice President Harris, my parents immigrated here from India, but they settled in a tiny farming community in South Central Kentucky. I'm also a proud graduate of the University of Kentucky, but I'm just here to be in community with y'all to show that Southerners come from all backgrounds. I'm just as proud of my Indian heritage as I am to be Southern, and I'm here to give back to rural America because it has given my family so much. My parents were not prepared for how much the South would rub off on me as a kid, but I'm so Southern that the summer I turned 10, I begged them to let me go to sleepaway camp that was run by the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, where I went on to earn my fishing, boating, and hunting license. And it was one of the best summers of my life. I feel like people up here in New York get so dramatic when I say I'm from the South. They'll be like, Kentucky? Ugh, what's it like in Kentucky? I bet they couldn't even pick out India on a map. And you know, that's real thick coming from New Yorkers who think everything south of here is Texas. People up here couldn't pick out Kentucky on a map. But after all of the well-deserved attention that our governor, Andy Beshear, has gotten the last few weeks, I think people are seeing Kentuckians and Southerners for who we really are, and not the tone-deaf characterization that J.D. Vance has portrayed us as. I'm so grateful for coalitions like this and who are shining a light on rural folks who want better for this country. And I'm so grateful to be here in community with you all. And I really fully believe that this ticket with Governor Walz and Vice President Harris will get us to a better America.
Thanks, Pooja. Appreciate it. Again, school board leaders, comedians, senators, lieutenant governors, rural America is represented all across America. And I'm excited about our next speaker, who's a mayor in Pennsylvania, a critical state, and where the Harris-Walz team kicked it all off. So let's hear from Dewan Walker.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chris. Thank you. Dirt Road Democrats, rural Americans. I'm from the great city of LA, lovely Aliquippa, 30 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. Some history. Aliquippa, April 12, 1937, the Wagner Act was signed. The reason why you can unionize, 5-4 vote, was right here in the city of Aliquippa, 7.2 miles of riverfront property. We know Kamala, we know Governor Walz will protect unions. That's the biggest thing we need to know, that they will protect the unions, right to vote, the right to assemble, the right to come together. The second thing you need to understand is Head Start program, 1964. The war on poverty, the Head Start, as you know it was forged right here in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. So those that don't know your history, look, we're trying to get some good trouble this November. We're trying to make sure that everything that we do matters. From the top of the ticket to the bottom. If politics is local, you better make sure you get out and vote, because this election is for our lives. This election is for rights. And we need to understand that. There's no pressure here. We've been here before. You know, don't tread lightly on what we're doing. And the opportunity is right in front of us to lead the next generation to do it and even better than when we got it. So we can't just sit back idly by and just let this thing be. When we have a lot of things that matter to us, we are the party of together. We are the party of unions. We are the party of the people. And we have to show that in little communities like Aliquippa that we can do these great things. And these little stories matter because, again, if you start something small, something big gonna come out of this. And we want to make sure that we're all represented at this table. And we got to support Harris. We got to support Mr. Walz. They need us. And there's a call right now, a clarion call. The bell has been rang. Who's going to answer the call? And if you're not going to answer the call, you better make sure that somebody can walk, crawl, get to the polls, or whatever they need to do to knock on doors, get them out there. Because now is the time. Now is the time to fight. Now is the time to be active.
Love it. Love it. Mayor Walker, mayor of LA. That's what I'm talking about. He's right. Now's the time to be active. Now's the time to get excited. Now's the time to get moving. Look, we have, I'm going to bring up our next guest, our next speaker, who I'm a huge fan of. But I'll give you a little preview too. We're going to have a few more speakers at the end, and as we wrap up, and these last speakers are going to talk to you a little bit about what you can do. And you can donate for sure. You can volunteer to The URL goes by. You can buy merch. Lots of things you can do. But this next speaker is an American comedian and co-author of the Liberal Redneck Manifesto, Dragging Dixie Out of the Dark and Round Here and Over Yonder, a front porch travel guide by two progressive hillbillies. This guy has me in stitches all the time. Trey Crowder, what do you got?
What's up, Chris? Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. I am a comedian, a giggle monger by trade, but tonight I'm just going to keep it real with you guys, talk about where I'm from. I'm one of y'all. If the accent didn't give me away, I come from the major metropolitan area of Salina, Tennessee. That's a town with more liquor stores and traffic lights. That's a 2-0 ratio, just so you know. No traffic lights at all. My dad used to tell me that they tried to install some traffic lights on the square in the 80s, but it didn't take because people kept shooting them out in the middle of the night. So, yeah, that's my hometown. As long as I've had political leanings, they've been leftward. It always felt like it came naturally to me. I mean, I grew up poor. You know, I was on food stamps, government benefits, and all this. And I always kind of got the impression that conservatives would have rather I just, you know, starved to death as a child. And for some reason, I've always taken that personally, just kind of stuck in my crawl. So, yeah, I'm a lefty from a family of lefties. My dad was a godless rock and roll heathen type, you know, and we had been in the town for generations, and everybody knew we were kind of misfits and all that, but still we got along just fine. And actually, one thing I always think of when I think of my hometown was when my dad passed away a little over 10 years ago. I was like in my 20s. I had 2 babies. I was living paycheck to paycheck, student loan debt, all this stuff. But, you know, I had to pay for my dad's funeral. So we have the funeral in Salina. After the funeral is over, I go back there to the office to hear what the damage is. What am I going to do? How am I going to make these payments or whatever? And the guy goes, "Oh, you don't owe us anything." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, everybody in town chipped in and paid for it, so it's covered. You guys don't have to worry about it." And so I know the heart of rural America is what I'm saying. These people are my people and always will be. I know the goodness and kindness and neighborliness in them, you know, and I think that a lot of them have been politically very misguided for years. And that's what we have to do is push back against that. And actually, and I think that, and Tim Walz is the perfect man for that job, in my opinion, showing these people that progressive policies are policies that help people. They're policies that are about being good neighbors. And that's what, you know, our communities are all about. I just want to say I love it when I see rural Americans come together, even if it's digitally. You know, I know a lot of us sometimes feel outnumbered. I get people on my shows all the time driving in from the sticks, and they'll be like, "I thought I was the only one," you know, and it's like, no, look around you. We're all here. We are legion. There's a lot of power in this particular coalition, and I believe that. So we got to come together and support the Harris Walz campaign. You got to donate. You got to vote. Get your other people to vote and let them know we're out here. We're pushing back. We're going to keep this country on the right track. And to hell with J.D. Vance and his shillbilly ass. All right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Back out here, Chris.
I love it, Trey. He couldn't resist the comedy. Look, 2-0, my dad's hometown is probably 3-0. Goodness, kindness, and neighborliness. That's what it's about. That's what we're about. And that's what our next speaker is about as well. Former Deputy Mayor of Glasgow, Virginia, Jade Harris. Let's hear it, Jade.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. I'm coming to you from Virginia's beautiful Shenandoah Valley. I'm the Valley Regional Chair of the Virginia Young Democrats, 2-time former candidate for the Virginia General Assembly, and the former Vice Mayor of the town of Glasgow, Virginia, an Appalachian Trail community nestled against the Blue Ridge Mountains and home to 1,100 of the best people I've ever met. During my time as Vice Mayor, we were able to provide advancements to our community that were only possible due to the leadership of Democrats and the Biden-Harris administration, with VP Harris being particularly influential. Her tie-breaking vote allowed critical legislation to pass. In the evenly divided Senate, no Republicans supported the American Rescue Plan Act. This monumental piece of legislation awarded $1.9 trillion across the nation to repair infrastructure, build healthier communities, and recover from the effects of the pandemic. The town of Glasgow received nearly $1 million of those dollars, almost equal to our yearly budget. This was an incredible windfall thanks to Democrats and VP Harris, which meant it was time for Vice Mayor Harris and the rest of the council to get to work. We used the funds to purchase a new ambulance, put a new roof and HVAC system in our historically black school-turned-community center, and we replaced miles of lead piping so our town's drinking water would be safe for generations to come. This is the legacy that the Biden-Harris administration left our little rural town and thousands of little rural towns like it across the country, and this is why I'm beyond excited for what we'll continue to build for rural communities with future Vice President Tim Walz and future President Kamala Harris. Thank you all for having me on. Thank you, Chris, for being great. Go vote.
Go vote. Go vote. Jay, thank you so much. Excited for your leadership and your continued leadership. And we're going to leave Virginia and come to my home state of Arkansas, the place that I love. One of my partners in crime is going to talk to us about what we're doing to get out the vote. Steve Grapp is from Arkansas, a farmer himself and a good friend. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Chris. First of all, you're killing it tonight. Thank you for leading this effort. Chris and I met on my farm the first day I met him. He was running for governor, and he said, I want to get out and meet the people out where they are. And I said, well, come on over to my farm. And he did. Those are the type of leaders we need. And that's the type of vice president that we just got picked up on our ticket, and we're excited about that. But y'all, I love the excitement that we're hearing. But here's the thing. I watched Steve's big board in the morning. We know what goes on with all the electorate. But this election runs through rural America. And if you're not in a red state, which is about half of you, it's hard to understand what rural America is over here, like in Arkansas. And we need y'all to know that we're going to fight even in the red states. We see things happening here in Arkansas. People are getting excited. People are getting out and getting involved that haven't been involved in a decade. But we got to do things a little different than they've been done before in some of these areas. You can't just go door to door. You got to go gravel road to gravel road in some of these cases. We all know that. We're from rural America. But look, get creative. We're doing some things around Arkansas that's just a little bit different. We're doing the traditional things. We got a phone bank. We've got to send postcards. We got to do text messaging. We got to canvass. But, we have this thing where we're grabbing or getting people to come together in small groups over dinner. We're inviting the libertarians and the Republicans. We're getting all of middle America around the table, and we're talking. And we're just not having an agenda. We're just getting to know each other, and we're letting people know, and we're giving people space. So get out there, y'all, and do the traditional things, but do some new things too. Go find where the people are. Go to these communities. I live on the suburbs of a little town of 482, and it's hard to get people together, but everybody likes to get together over food. So have little parties, have house parties, do things to get people together and just spread the word, because there's a lot of disinformation out there. And in these red states, we're the proving ground for what they're going to do to education if we keep going too far down the road. This is what they're going to do to our health care. So let's do non-traditional things and get people out to vote. And I'm excited about our ticket. Thanks, Chris.
Love it. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve. Doing the work, doing it in non-traditional ways. Next up, we are moving over to, where are we going? Wisconsin, back to Wisconsin. Yi Lee Jiang is a candidate for state assembly and is currently the Marathon County, Wisconsin supervisor. Let's go, Yi Lee.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yilang Zhang, and I was born here in Wausau, Wisconsin. I have been involved in this community my entire life. I am running for the Wisconsin State Assembly and have a long track record of serving the community. I currently serve on the county board, school board, and previously 2 terms on the Village of Weston board. As a lifelong Wisconsinite, I am proud to be here today to talk about our next president, Kamala Harris. Vice President Harris believes in a future where every person in Wisconsin has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. In Vice President Harris, we have a leader who is a fighter, who will fight for access to paid family leave and affordable child care, where every person can buy a home and start a family, and where no child has to grow up in poverty. She is a champion for working families like mine, and she knows that when our middle class is strong, America is strong. We cannot afford another term with trickle-down policies that give huge tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and ignore the real problems going on in rural America. We cannot afford a candidate that advocates for tariffs that devastate ginseng growers in north central Wisconsin. We cannot afford a candidate who wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act and make access to healthcare in rural areas even worse. Wisconsin is just one of 10 states that have not accepted federal dollars and expand Medicaid, despite the fact that 1 in every 3 babies born in Wisconsin are paid for by Medicaid. It's past time we accept those funds, expand Medicaid, and ensure vital access to health care for the youngest and most vulnerable Wisconsinites. Donald Trump and extreme Republicans would undermine Medicaid, and when hospitals are closing and healthcare clinics are laying off staff, the last thing we need is more instability. We need support. We cannot support Project 2025 or any agenda that would weaken the middle class and make working families pay the cost. We cannot support any efforts that would cut Social Security and Medicaid and put our most vulnerable neighbors at risk. This November, the choice couldn't be clearer. I encourage everyone across America to meet this moment, get involved, and help elect Kamala Harris as our next president and Tim Walz as our next vice president. Thank you.
Thanks, Yeleen. That's awesome. Yes, he is right. It is on us. We will step up. We will get it done. And now we will go to Georgia. The Peach County, Georgia Commissioner, Shanita Howell. Tell us what it's about, Shanita.
Hello, Democrats. It's so great to see you all. I'm so happy to be here with so many esteemed Democrats and so many Democrats who are stomping for Kamala Harris, as well as her vice presidential pick, Governor Walz. So, as he said, I am from Georgia. I'm from the South, the southern part of the United States of America. And I represent a small county called Peach County. I represent Post 2, which is in the southern end of the county. So I am a southern girl through and through. And I'm here to quote one of my favorite rappers, the South has something to say. And what the South is here to say today to you guys and to the rest of America is that long gone are the days where you think about the rural parts of America and you think that rural means white, male, conservative. No, that's not true. There are people in rural Georgia. There are people in rural Texas, rural Florida, all of these other red states who look like me, who I represent, who you represent. And we need to reach those people. I'm here to tell you that I am determined to deliver Peach County, Georgia, to Vice President Harris as a victory. I'm here to tell you to do the same in your rural areas. I sit on a board of commissioners where we are predominantly white, male, conservative. I'm one of only 2 Black Democratic commissioners on my board, and I know what it's like to be the underdog. I know what it's like to fight for democratic principles and different things, and just have to overcome that red obstacle, so to speak. I actually just left my commissioners meeting tonight, where I was running into another red obstacle, where they're wanting to have a moratorium on making new trailer parks or RV parks. And, that's not something we want to do in a time when we have unaffordable housing. We want to do things to make sure that we have affordable housing. And Vice President Kamala Harris has been a champion, a proven champion for rural America by helping President Joe Biden with the American Rescue Plan, the Infrastructure Investment Act. All of these things that have trickled down, even though they say things don't trickle down, when they do them, they trickle down when we do them. So all of those things have trickled down into rural America and made things better. And I am here to say that I support Vice President, I'm speaking prophetically. That was a Freudian slip. I am here to support Vice President Harris and Governor Walz, and I'm asking that you do the same thing. Let's deliver a victory to rural America. Let's deliver a victory to America. Let's deliver a victory to Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Walz.
Thank you. Love it. Commissioner Shanita Howell. She said it. She's going to deliver a victory in her area for soon to be President Harris and soon to be Vice President Walz. And then they're going to turn around and deliver broadband to Shanita in every other area, because we know in rural areas we need good broadband. Next up, we're going to go to Nebraska. The Nebraska Mayor, Miles Bannon. Come on, Miles, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'd Happy to be here tonight. It's been a long evening. Appreciate everybody sticking around and waiting to hear from the mayor, former mayor of Chadron, Nebraska, a place where Tim Walz went to college, got his bachelor's here in Chadron at Chadron State College. So much tonight about how good Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been to our rural areas. We have so many people out here who have benefited. A lot of people who don't know. A lot of people who have no idea how much their city, how much their county has been helped by the Biden-Harris administration. And that's okay. That's not why we do this work. I'm part of Outrun, and we are a group of folks who go and talk to county parties, can talk to groups all around the country in rural areas. As they talk about, when we fight, we win. When we run, we win. And when you run, you win. When you're here tonight, when you're hearing this message, you're feeling the vibes, you're feeling inspired, that is the sign that it's time to run. Because when you run as who you are, that's what we're about in the Outrun Coalition. Run as who you are. Be the person in your community who steps up and tries to make the world a better place, make America a better country. We're a complicated country. Kamala Harris says that too. We do everything in this country in a weird way. We have so much complicated history, but our truest value as Americans is pursuing what America can be, the dream of what we are, the dream of what we can be. And that's what I'm here to talk about tonight is just, we've heard so much about what they have done, but it's all about what we can do together tonight. Run for something, get involved, contribute, join a board, help your local community. That's all part of what it takes to get the work done, to be part of a community, to be part of an America that supports rural areas. It's not rural versus cities. It's not rural versus anything. It's all of us together. And I don't think people realize just how many rural folks are out here who are involved, who care, who want to support things. It's not just red. I mean, this is the reddest electoral vote in the United States of America. We are redder than Wyoming. Here I am as a Democratic Lakota man who serves on the city council, who's been serving here for 10 years. People don't care about those politics when you're running locally. We've had a lot of folks on this call tonight who ran hard races and lost. Don't take that away from that. You shouldn't try. Take away from that we do try. And when we do try, we can win. And you talk about state legislature races. We talk about bigger races than that. I'm talking about city council. I'm talking about your school board. I'm talking about stepping up and serving on your planning commission. Everybody can do that. Anybody can step forward and take part in the process. It's so important that we all do that. In rural areas, we need people so badly who are willing to contribute to the process and to be part of America. And that's why we're all here tonight, to support Kamala Harris and our vice president's favorite vice president, Tim Walz.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Thanks a lot, Miles. Appreciate it. Love that call to action. Look, we are rounding the corner for our final lineup. We're going to hear again from Arkansas and what we're doing. Arkansas is not dissimilar from other places. We have a Republican supermajority. They're passing bills that are going to work their way up to the Supreme Court, and they're going to infect everyone. But we only need 8 seats to break the supermajority in Arkansas. And we have some phenomenal down ballot candidates. Will Watson's going to come up and tell us what's happening in Arkansas. Let's go, Will.
Hey, y'all. My name's Will Watson, and I'm the director of Battleground Arkansas, the Democratic Coordinated Campaign here in the Natural State. We are working, as Chris said, to elect Democrats from the county courthouse to the state house and all the way to the White House. I'm from a small mining town called Bauxite, Arkansas, population under 700, named after a rock that we pulled out of the ground and turned into aluminum and then airplanes and other equipment that helped America win World War II. I only have a couple minutes tonight, so I'm going to be very brief and say that I'm proud to be on this call with y'all representing small towns like mine, backwoods, hollers, and country folks who are supporting Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We have a lot in common, like saying things like y'all and for crying out loud and fixing to, and apparently we say hot dish now, and we don't plan to apologize for it. As long as we don't talk about Southeastern Conference sports, we can probably all stay on the same page here. In my job traveling the state for Arkansas Democrats, I've seen firsthand how the investments Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have made transform lives in rural America. Vice President Harris has been instrumental in investing more than $4 billion in our state's infrastructure and healthcare. But when she and Joe Biden said build back better, they weren't just talking about our country. They were also talking about our rural state Democratic parties. Here in Arkansas, we have more Democrats running for the state legislature than at any time in the past decade. And that's because of the investments made by the president, vice president, and DNC in rural and red states like mine. I spent this weekend on the road in the Mississippi River Delta in eastern Arkansas, and I saw firsthand the excitement that our rural communities have for Kamala Harris. There is a tendency in national politics to flatten rural to mean a certain thing, to convey a certain image. In Arkansas, rural means black folks and white folks standing shoulder to shoulder and admiring the same bass boat, which was the case for me and my dad this weekend in South Arkansas. It means immigrants from East Asia and Latin America who were all selling fruits of their hard work at the farmers market in downtown Fayetteville, Arkansas, where I bought a handful of their tomatoes this morning. And it means working class folks of all backgrounds pitching in together to make their communities better and deserve more than they're getting out of the MAGA extremists who run Arkansas right now. My ask of everyone on this call, and as someone who works way down the ballot from the presidential race, is for us to channel this enthusiasm for our president and vice presidential nominees into support for those places where daily life is made much harder by extremist GOP supermajorities. We have a governor and a MAGA Republican supermajority in Arkansas that make life miserable for a lot of people just out of pure meanness. We've seen attacks on abortion access and people's identity that are unprecedented in Arkansas, even under previous Republican administrations. But the fact is, we have hope. Let's make sure that we elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz this fall, and that we're investing in the long haul in rural states to lift Democrats at every level. I appreciate y'all letting me join this call, and we're ready in Arkansas to do our part to lift this ticket in all 75 counties across our state and in each of your states too. Thanks, y'all.
Awesome. Hey, Will said it. We have hope. We have hope. And I'm excited about what's happening. Look, next up, we have a couple more, and then we're going to give you our final wrap up. But I will say this real quick. You all, this has been an amazing conversation. We are $500 away from raising $20,000 from rural Americans. So donate, volunteer, sign up. Let's stay in the game. We've had 2,000 to 3,000 people on this call listening to us, and they are ready to get to work and continue to work. Next up, Ezra Levin, co-founder of Indivisible, that has been doing the work. Let's go, Ezra.
Hey, Chris, you've been doing the work. Thanks for your incredible, heroic work behind the scenes here and in front of the camera. Man, there have been a ton of incredible speakers. I'm Ezra Levin. I'm co-founder of Indivisible. I grew up right outside the city limits of Buda, Texas, tiny little town in between Austin and San Antonio. I don't come from a politically corrected family, which means when I was a young, dumb student, I was looking for what to do to help out to push back against the Iraq War and George W. And it frustrated the hell out of me that there was no real way to plug in locally. And the fact of the matter is, for too long, rural communities have just been written off. Not enough people, too hard to organize, too damn far apart between the houses. So, look, I'm the co-founder of Indivisible now. We are a national network of locally led groups in every single state and spread out across those states, cities, suburban areas, and rural areas. And we are working this year to elect Kamala Harris, to elect her Vice President Walz, and to deliver to them a Democratic trifecta so they can codify reproductive rights and pass democracy reform. That's why we're all here. That's why we're all here. Now, practically, what can we do about it in rural areas? As somebody who's been organizing in rural areas now for the last several years, here are three practical things I can recommend that you can do in your own community. One, you can win. Maybe you don't win your state. Maybe you don't win your congressional district or county, but your state house, your city council, your elected judge, your school board. For many of us in rural and red communities, they're not 100% red. There are offices that matter for how your own community responds to the threat of MAGA propagated by these statewide leaders in your state. Second thing you can do, you can run up the score to help other people win. I know some of you are thinking, hey, Ezra, I'm in the heart of Trump country. We can't elect a dog catcher. That might be true. This is a political reality for some of us. But for some number of you folks, you're living in that local political reality when the statewide reality is different. I'm looking at you in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Arizona. You might not be able to elect a dog catcher, but you sure as hell can run a dog catcher. You sure as hell can get votes out for that dog catcher, votes out for the state rep, state senator, U.S. rep, city council person. You can get votes out for those candidates. They might win, they might not win, but regardless, they're going to get votes out for themselves and the top of the ticket. For Harris, for Walz, for the Democrats running at the statewide. We need those votes. Harris needs those votes. Third thing, look, you might have a bad political situation locally. You might be in a bad political situation statewide. Well, you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. Back when I was getting involved in politics in rural Texas 20 years ago, there was no infrastructure. But in 2016, there was this young woman named Erin Zweiner. She was furious about Trump, and she got involved building up her local Indivisible group. She was so pissed off at her local state rep that she decided to run against him. She beat him. Then she won re-election. Then she run re-election again. My high school, which was formerly in a red and rural area of the state, is currently represented by Aaron Zweiner in the Texas State House. That's what possible if you build up the infrastructure. So VP Harris, Governor Walz, they need your money. Scan that code. Give us the $20 so we can get to $20,000. We're going to make it there. But they need more than your money. They need your time. They need your energy. They need your effort. Find a way to get involved in your own community now. Don't wait for somebody to tap you on the shoulder. Do it now. You can win. You can run up the score to help others win, and you can build the infrastructure to sustain this democracy of ours for the continuing future. Let's go out and win this thing, y'all.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Ezra. Thank you. And Ezra knows what he's talking about because he has been doing the work. Look, we are at the end now. Unfortunately, it's sort of sad because this has been an amazing night. Of the last three folks I'm going to bring up, PJ Herrera, who's the Rural Caucus Chair for the Young Democrats of America. Right after him, you're going to hear from Bree Maxwell, who heads up the rural coalitions at the DNC, and Kylie, who's the chair of the Rural Council. And then I'll come back in and close out. This has been amazing. Go ahead, PJ, and then we'll hear from Bree and then Kylie.
Thanks, Chris. My name is PJ Herrera, and I am the chair of the Young Democrats of America Rural Caucus. We're an organization dedicated to championing the interests of our Democrats in rural areas, no matter the age. We serve as a networking hub for rural young Democrats and as a resource for young people organizing in rural America. My executive committee and I are spread across the country, and I am telling you that we are working hard. I want to shout out the chairs of the Young Democrats of North Carolina and Georgia's rural caucuses, specifically the chairs Daniel Franch and Blake Robinson and their teams for doing all they can to get out the vote for Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz in these important battleground states. One of the main messages that I tell people about getting out the vote is that every action counts. Knocking on doors is one, yes, but there are postcards to write, text to send, phones to call. Volunteer at local Democratic Party headquarters or the booth at your county fair. Your message comes best from you. Share a personal story about why this election is important to you so that voters can understand where you are coming from. I thank every single one of you for participating in this call. Rural folk in the United States know that we exist as the heart and soul of this country, where we find the true spirit of democracy, where neighbors help neighbors, where the values of hard work, community, and resilience are not just ideals, but a way of life. The thousands of people on this call are a reminder that dismissing us as a flyover country just won't ever fly. So let's come together. Let's mobilize, put boots on the ground. Let's show Donald Trump that we don't want whatever con he is selling. Let's show J.D. Vance that we don't need a damn elegy. And by voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, we are voting for a future where our rural communities are not just surviving, but thriving.
Yes.
Thank you. Donate, vote, 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 and have a great day. And thanks,
PJ. Thanks for bringing us around the corner. And now we're going to hear from folks who have been doing the work, like everyone else has. They're right at that intersection for us. So Bree, would you come up? And Kylie, would you come up? Let's hear what you have to say. Thanks, Bree.
So thank you so much. This has been an amazing call. I am super excited to see everyone get involved with rural because we all know that rural America is the pulse of America. And because of that, we all know that the food that we eat and from the small businesses that run our towns, that is because of rural America. And because of that, I have a few call to actions for you. So one, get involved with your state parties. If you are not involved with your state party, that's just weird. And so I need you to get involved with your state party ASAP. If you're not involved with your state party, at least get involved with your local precinct. Become a precinct leader. Adopt a precinct. That is something that we say in South Carolina. Adopt a precinct. You can adopt a precinct, and then once you adopt that precinct, you're going to be responsible for targeting those voters within that precinct. That is an amazing way to make sure that you can bring home voters who probably haven't voted in a while. That is an amazing way to make sure that we are targeting sporadic voters. On top of that, let's do some unconventional things. Let's go to beauty and barbershops. Go there. Ask them, can you hang up some flyers or some placards in their window? leave some material, or as we say, leave some chum, so that people are knowledgeable about what's going on in the community. Outside of that, let's get some party buses. Let's go around town. Let's go to the clubs. Let's have the young people set up tables and booths at clubs to not only register voters, but to make sure that we're leaving materials. Have people sign pledge cards. Have them pledge that they will vote, or that they will register to vote, or they will get 5 to 10 other people to make sure that they vote as well. And then what we're going to do is we're going to follow up with them to make sure that they are going to the polls, whether they are early voting, absentee voting, or voting on election day. The goal is to make sure we're driving home the margins, to make sure that we are getting rural voters out there. And let me tell you one more thing. Faith without works is dead. And I have the faith that we will win. And now it's time for us to put the work behind it. And I'll kick it to you, Kylie.
Thanks so much, Bree, and thanks so much to all the organizers. I apologize, it's a little dark here. My daughter Addie and I are sitting outside in North Dakota. We're so grateful of you on here tonight. My name is Kylie. I'm very proud to serve as chair of the DNC Rural Council. I'm a former representative and former state party chair, so I appreciated seeing all of our state party folks on here tonight. 2 specific places I want you to go in addition to the ruralforharris.com. Make sure you have given a few dollars if you haven't already. Go to democrats.org, find the Take Action button on the top of that page, download the Reach app, which will help you connect directly with your friends and family to tell them why you will be voting for the Harris-Walz ticket. You can also go to KamalaHarris.com and click their Take Action button and sign up to receive their emails and texts, sign up to volunteer, host a party, to attend events. It'll show you all of the different ways that you can be involved. We are so thrilled to be a part of this team and look forward to making sure that the road to the White House runs through rural America. Thank you.
Love it. You all, this has been amazing. Let me tell you, we know that Black women are fired up for Harris-Walz. We know that Black men are fired up for Harris-Walz. We know that white women are fired up for Harris-Walz. We know that white dudes are fired up for Harris-Walz. We know that Latino Americans are fired up for Harris-Walz, and those with disabilities, and all and on and on and on. And now we know that rural Americans are fired up for the Harris-Walz ticket. It is our time. It is our moment. Make sure you donate. Make sure you sign up to volunteer. Make sure you get involved locally. We can seize this moment. We can seize this time. I thank you all for sharing this moment with us and this time with us. And I love each and every one of you. And I can't wait to see you on the other side of a victory in November. God bless you.
Hi, this is Tim.
It's Kamala Harris. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning, Madam Vice President.
Listen, I want you to do this with me. Let's do this together. Would you be my running mate and let's get this thing on the road?
I would be honored, Madam Vice President. The joy that you're bringing back to the country, the enthusiasm that's out there, it'll be a privilege to take this with you across the country.
Well, let me tell you, I have just the utmost respect for you. I have really enjoyed our work together. You understand our country. You have dedicated yourself to our country in so many different and beautiful ways. And we're going to do this. We're going to win. And we're going to unify our country and remind everyone that we are fighting for the future for everyone. So let's get out there and get this done, okay?
Let's do it. Do the work in front of us. Let's win this thing.
That's right. All right, buddy. I'll see you soon. Take care. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.